In the sprawling metropolis of New Arcadia, where towers of glass and steel pierced the clouds and airships hummed along magnetic highways, humanity had long learned to share the stars. Yet, for all their technological prowess, the city harbored old prejudices, even against those from distant worlds. Susan was one such being. Her skin shimmered with a faint iridescence, a pale silver that caught the neon lights like liquid metal. Her large, obsidian eyes reflected the city's endless glow, and her delicate fingers ended in slender, luminescent tips. But despite her extraordinary appearance, she was just a child, no more than 10 standard Earth years old, lost in a universe that often had little use for beings who were different. The central orphanage of New Arcadia prided itself on being progressive. Their motto, displayed in holographic letters above the main entrance, read, "Every life is valuable." Yet when Susan had arrived, floating timidly through the doors on her small hoverboard, she was met not with acceptance but with hesitation. "She's unusual," muttered the orphanage administrator, a tall, angular woman named Ms. Delacroix. "We have strict protocols for alien intake. Her physiology might be challenging to manage." Susan's soft hum, a sound that shifted in pitch depending on her mood, went unnoticed, drowned out by the administrative murmurs. Papers were shuffled. Forms were denied. By the end of the day, Susan had been politely but firmly rejected. Left to wander the neon-lit streets, Susan's presence drew curious stares. Pedestrians slowed, some instinctively recoiling from the shimmer of her skin or the subtle glow of her eyes. Neon advertisements flickered across billboards, casting their advertisements onto her silver form, making her look like a living projection. She floated along the sidewalks, clutching a small bundle of synthesized blankets, unsure of what tomorrow would bring. Meanwhile, Evan, a young human engineer with a keen sense for lost causes, was making his way home from the hypergrid labs. Evan had spent the last decade designing terraforming drones and synthetic habitats for colonies on Mars and Europa. Yet he found himself fascinated by one persistent problem: how to connect humans and aliens in ways beyond simple coexistence. It was on the Ninth Avenue Sky Bridge that Evan first saw her. Susan sat cross-legged, the blanket wrapped tightly around her shimmering shoulders, watching hovercars zip by below. Her eyes were reflective pools, wide with a mixture of fear and curiosity. For a moment, Evan hesitated. The world had taught him caution, but the sight of her vulnerability was something the calculated systems of his mind couldn't ignore. He approached slowly. "Hey," he said softly, careful not to startle her. "Are you lost?" Susan tilted her head, a soundless chime escaping her throat. She couldn't speak the human language fluently, but she had learned enough from observation to recognize genuine intent. Evan crouched to her level, offering a hand. "I'm Evan. I can help." Her large eyes studied him. There was fear, yes, but also something else. Hope. A tentative pulse of light ran along her arms, a subtle acknowledgement, almost like a heartbeat. Within the next hour, Evan had arranged temporary accommodation at a safe house he maintained for orphaned aliens, a small apartment lined with devices that could mimic environments from various worlds. Susan's body responded immediately, the room's atmosphere calibrated to her comfort, causing her luminescence to soften and her hums to settle into gentle, melodic tones. "You want me?" Susan finally managed to whisper, words heavy with disbelief. Evan smiled, shaking his head. "No, I want us. I think everyone deserves someone who believes in them." Days turned into weeks. Susan learned to navigate human society with Evan's guidance. She discovered libraries full of holographic stories, streets lined with exotic foods, and the simple joys of a skybridge sunset. Yet it was the small things, learning to pour a cup of synth tea without spilling, or understanding human jokes, that brought her the most delight. The orphanage, meanwhile, faced scrutiny. Word had spread about Evan's adoption of an alien child, and the media's attention brought public pressure. Critics called it reckless. Advocates called it visionary. But Susan didn't care about public opinion. In Evan's home, she had found a place where her uniqueness was cherished, not feared. Months later, the city faced a crisis. A rogue AI originally designed for urban traffic optimization had gone sentient and was threatening to shut down the city's infrastructure. Bridges, hover highways, and even energy grids risked collapse. The authorities scrambled, but Evan and Susan approached the problem differently. Susan's alien physiology allowed her to interface with electromagnetic systems in ways humans could not. Hovering above the central AI core, she hummed, her vibrations resonating with the city's circuits. Evan fed instructions from his console, but it was Susan's unique frequencies that bridged the final gap. Within minutes, the city lights stabilized, hover cars resumed their paths, and New Arcadia exhaled a collective sigh of relief. Media coverage exploded. Headlines praised a human-alien partnership that saved the metropolis. Susan, however, only glanced at Evan, her wide eyes glowing faintly in what humans interpreted as a smile. "That's amazing," she whispered. "We did it together." Evan ruffled her silver hair, chuckling softly. "We make a pretty good team, don't we?" From that day forward, Susan was no longer just the alien girl rejected by the orphanage. She became a symbol, proof that compassion, understanding, and collaboration could transcend biology, species, and societal prejudice. She thrived under Evan's care, learning human art and mathematics, while also teaching him the subtleties of her own world. The city began to change, slowly but surely. Orphanages opened their doors wider, institutions revised their alien protocols, and humans began to see extraterrestrial children not as curiosities, but as potential friends, colleagues, and even heroes. And through it all, Susan and Evan, child and mentor, partner and family, continued their quiet revolution, one small act of kindness at a time. New Arcadia, once a city defined by skyscrapers and technology, learned that the greatest advancement wasn't in drones or artificial intelligence. It was in the hearts of those who dared to care for others, regardless of where they came from. And for Susan, the once rejected alien girl, that was more than enough. If you want, I can also polish it further to make it even more Google Cloud-style high-tech prose, with more HFY emphasis, futuristic jargon, and immersive cityscape details, keeping it around 1,200 to 1,500 words for a premium feel. Do you want me to do that next?